The message didn't sound angry. That's what scared me the most. "Don't plan anything for my birthday," my boyfriend said casually, not even looking up from his phone. "You always embarrass me." The word always hung in the air like an accusation I didn't remember earning. My name is Ariba, and I'd been with Saad for nearly 3 years. 3 years of shared routines, shared friends, shared photos posted carefully so they fit his image. Saad liked control over his schedule, his reputation, the way people saw him. He worked in corporate sales, obsessed with appearances, always talking about class and standards. I worked in digital marketing, creative, expressive, emotional. We used to joke that we balanced each other out. Lately, it felt less like balance and more like correction. I remember his last birthday clearly. I surprised him with a small gathering, nothing dramatic. Just dinner, a cake, and a few close friends. Everyone laughed. Everyone except Saad. He smiled through it, but later, in the car, he snapped. Told me I made him look childish. That people at work might see the photos. That I didn't understand how important his image was. I apologized. Of course I did. So this year, when he said it again, "Don't plan anything," I nodded. I told him I understood. I told him it was his day, his choice. He relaxed instantly, as if he'd won something. "Thank you," he said. "Just, don't make it about you." That stung more than I expected. We lived separately but spent most nights together at his apartment. That week, he was unusually distracted, smiling at his phone, stepping into the balcony to take calls, locking his screen when I came near. When I asked who he was talking to, he shrugged. "Work people. You wouldn't know them." I noticed other things too. A new shirt hanging in his closet with the tag still on. A reservation confirmation email flashing briefly on his screen before he minimized it. When I asked what his birthday plans were, he said he'd probably just chill or see what happens. No dinner with me. No quiet night in. Just vague. The night before his birthday, he reminded me again. "Seriously, Ariba. No surprises. I don't want drama." I smiled and said, "Of course." But as I lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, a slow, uneasy thought crept in. People don't fear embarrassment unless there's something they're afraid will be seen. And for the first time since we met, I wondered, was he trying to protect his image or hide his truth? At first, I told myself I was being sensitive. Saad had always been particular about his birthday. He said expectations ruined things. Surprises stressed him out. I'd heard those lines before, and I wanted to be the easy girlfriend, the one who respected boundaries, who didn't overthink. So when the red flags started appearing, I folded them neatly into excuses. The first one was his phone. It used to sit face up on the table, buzzing openly with messages from friends and coworkers. Now it never left his hand. If it did, it was face down. When it rang, he'd glance at the screen, frown slightly, and step into another room. Once, I caught a name flash across it, Nadia, before he tilted the phone away. "Who's that?" I asked lightly. "Client," he said too quickly. "You wouldn't know her." Then came the scheduling rules. Any time I suggested we spend his birthday together, even casually, he shut it down. "I told you not to plan anything," he snapped once, sharper than usual. It wasn't about parties anymore. It felt like I wasn't allowed near the day at all. The unfairness started showing in smaller ways. He criticized how I dressed when we went out, saying I was too much. Too loud. Too expressive. Meanwhile, he began putting extra effort into himself, new haircut, new watch, gym sessions that ran late. I supported him, but quietly, I shrank. Money became another strange point of tension. He stopped splitting things evenly, saying he was saving for something important. Important, but not important enough to tell me. When I joked about getting him a small gift anyway, he said, "Please don't waste your money." Waste. Like I was an expense. The emotional strain built slowly, like water behind a wall. I found myself choosing words carefully, rehearsing sentences in my head before speaking. I checked my phone constantly, waiting for messages that didn't come. When I did see him, he felt distracted, present in body, absent in everything else. One night, while we watched TV, his phone buzzed. He smiled at the screen without realizing it. Not a polite smile. A private one. I felt my chest tighten. "Good news?" I asked. He locked the phone. "Just work." I nodded, even though something inside me twisted. Work had never made him smile like that before. The night before his birthday, he told me he'd be busy the next day. Meetings. Dinner with colleagues. Don't wait up. Colleagues. On his birthday. I watched him sleep later, wondering how someone could be right beside you and still feel so far away. I wasn't angry yet. I was tired. Confused. Starting to doubt my own instincts. But deep down, beneath the excuses and apologies I kept offering him, one quiet truth was getting harder to ignore: he wasn't afraid of being embarrassed. He was afraid of being caught. His birthday morning arrived quietly. No messages. No calls. Just a short text from Saad around noon: "Busy day. Don't wait up." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. 3 years together, and that was it. I told myself not to spiral. I went to work. Answered emails. Smiled at coworkers. Pretended my chest didn't feel tight. The truth revealed itself by accident. That evening, while scrolling mindlessly through Instagram, a familiar face flashed across my screen: Saad's close friend, Bilal. He wasn't someone I followed closely, but his story autoplayed before I could swipe away. And there it was. A dimly lit rooftop restaurant. Fairy lights. A long table decorated with balloons that read "Happy Birthday, Saad." My heart skipped. I leaned closer, replaying the story. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Saad at the center, smiling wide, relaxed, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then the camera shifted. A woman sat beside him, her hand resting casually on his arm. Her head leaned close to his shoulder. Too close. Intimate. Familiar. Saad didn't pull away. The caption read, "Perfect night for the perfect couple, party popper, red heart couple." My hands went numb. I watched every story Bilal posted after that, my stomach dropping further with each clip. Candles. Cake. A surprise gift. Saad laughing as the woman kissed his cheek and everyone cheered. So this was the embarrassment. Not the party. Not the attention. Me. I messaged Bilal immediately. "Where is this?" No reply. I texted Saad. No response. The disbelief came first, sharp, dizzying. Then heartbreak crashed in, heavy and suffocating. I felt stupid for every excuse I'd made, every apology I'd given, every moment I'd shrunk myself to protect his image. Anger followed fast. I zoomed into one of the videos and froze the frame. The woman's face was clear now. Nadia. The client. The private smiles. The secret calls. Everything clicked into place. That's why he didn't want me there. That's why he didn't want surprises. That's why I was an embarrassment. Because I wasn't the girlfriend he wanted people to see anymore. I sat on my bed in the dark, phone glowing in my hand, replaying the stories again and again like punishment. My chest hurt, but beneath the pain, something else stirred, something colder, steadier. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't carelessness. It was a choice. He didn't just cheat on me. He erased me from his life for a night he carefully choreographed, one where I didn't exist. I didn't cry right away. Instead, I took screenshots. Every story. Every caption. Every tagged location. I saved them silently, methodically, like I was collecting pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. Saad still thought I was at home, obedient, clueless. He had no idea that while he blew out his candles, I was making a wish of my own. And it wasn't forgiveness. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of heartbreak. Not just because of betrayal. But because for the first time, I saw clearly what I'd been blind to for months. Every little excuse I'd made for Saad. Every time I'd minimized his secretive behavior. Every late-night call I pretended didn't bother me. He thought I was fragile. He thought I'd stay quiet. He thought he could erase me without consequence. And that's when the anger turned into clarity. I looked around my apartment, the same apartment where we'd celebrated his birthdays together, where I'd planned surprises, where I'd built a life around him, and realized something profound. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't naive. I wasn't just the girl he could dismiss when it suited him. I was the one who knew the truth. I opened my phone and reviewed the screenshots I'd collected earlier. Every story, every tagged location, every happy smile between him and Nadia. Evidence of a betrayal so calculated it made my stomach turn. But instead of panic, I felt control returning, piece by piece. The trigger wasn't revenge itself. It wasn't the anger that made me sit upright. It was the thought that he thought he'd won. That he had erased me. That he had humiliated me, and the world didn't even know. No. That wouldn't stand. I remembered how he had dismissed my efforts in the past, the decorations I'd planned, the little surprises I thought he liked, the patience I'd shown. He had tried to diminish me, but all he had done was show me my own strength. I realized I didn't need to beg, plead, or scream. I didn't need to compete. I needed strategy, patience, and focus. I started making a list. Step by step. Documentation. Screenshots. Dates. Locations. Corroborating evidence from friends and witnesses. Everything that could expose his betrayal without ambiguity. For the first time, I felt light. Free. Empowered. My chest, which had felt heavy for days, began to lift with purpose. This was no longer about heartbreak. This was about reclaiming my dignity and making sure the truth saw the light. Saad thought my obedience was weakness. Nadia thought my silence was fear. Both were wrong. I was no longer the girlfriend he could humiliate or dismiss. I was someone who had seen everything, remembered everything, and would act with precision. By the time dawn broke, I had decided I would not let betrayal define me. I would not let them control the narrative. And most importantly, I would make sure that when the story ended, I would be the one standing, not broken, not small, but stronger than ever. And in that quiet, early morning moment, I made a vow: this birthday would be remembered. Just not for the reason Saad expected. I didn't confront Saad the next day. That was the hardest part, acting normal while something sharp and determined settled inside me. He texted late that afternoon, casually, like nothing had happened. Sorry, yesterday was crazy. Long day. No apology. No explanation. Just control. I replied with a simple, "It's okay. Hope you had a good birthday." He reacted with a heart emoji. That's when I knew he felt completely safe. Step 1 was gathering proof, not emotion. I went back to Bilal's Instagram and screen recorded every story before they expired. I saved photos from other tagged accounts, people who didn't bother hiding anything. I zoomed in on reflections, timestamps, restaurant menus, location tags. The evidence wasn't just that he cheated, it was that he publicly replaced me. Step 2 was confirmation. I reached out to someone I trusted, Saad's cousin, who had always been friendly with me. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I simply asked, "Did you know about Nadia?" There was a pause. Then the reply came, "I thought you already knew." That single sentence hit harder than anything else. This wasn't a secret affair. This was an open truth, just not one I was meant to be part of anymore. Step 3 was timing. Saad cared about one thing more than love, his image. His reputation. The way people saw him. He curated his online presence carefully, birthday posts, couple photos, captions about loyalty and respect. So I let him keep playing the perfect boyfriend. For now. He came over 2 days later, acting affectionate, almost relieved. He talked about work, about future plans, about a trip we should take soon. I listened. I smiled. I noticed how easily he lied. He had no idea I was already building the stage. I organized everything into folders, screenshots, videos, messages, dates. I drafted one post, then deleted it. Drafted another. This wasn't about impulsive exposure. This was about undeniable truth. The trap wasn't public humiliation yet. It was certainty. I waited until Nadia posted a birthday photo, just one, of her and Saad together, captioned, "Some surprises are worth keeping." That was it. I knew exactly when and how. Saad still thought he was in control, juggling stories, managing narratives, deciding who mattered. He didn't realize control only works when the other person stays silent. And I was done being silent. Because once the truth comes out, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care about excuses. And it doesn't leave room to hide. The countdown had started. And Saad was still smiling, completely unaware that his carefully managed image was about to collapse in front of everyone who mattered most to him. It all happened in one afternoon, and it felt like the world paused just for me. I scheduled a private lunch with Saad's closest friends, people who had always admired him, people who believed the perfect boyfriend story he carefully curated. I called it casual. Just a catch-up. They didn't know the storm I had in my pocket. When we met, Saad showed up too, smiling, confident, completely unaware. He waved at his friends, acting like the loyal, devoted boyfriend everyone had believed in. I waited until he was mid-story, talking about how great his birthday had been, how Nadia was so thoughtful. Then I pulled out my phone. "Actually," I said, voice calm, deliberate, "I thought you'd like to see something." The first video played. Bilal's Instagram story, the rooftop, the fairy lights, the cake, the laughter, Nadia's hand resting on his arm. Saad froze. Not just embarrassed, but stunned, as if the floor had disappeared beneath him. Then I opened the photo gallery on my phone, screenshots of every tagged post, every caption, every reflection in a restaurant window. Friends leaned closer, shocked. Whispers started spreading. Saad's laughter died on his lips. I let them look long enough for reality to settle in, then continued, "And here's the funny part," I said, scrolling to the messages I had saved from Saad himself. "You remember telling me not to plan anything? That I always embarrass you?" I held up the screenshot. Turns out, the embarrassment wasn't mine. It was yours. You just forgot that everyone else could see too. Saad tried to interrupt, but the room didn't belong to him anymore. His friends didn't laugh at me. They didn't nod politely. They stared. And for the first time, I realized they were seeing the truth. He turned pale as more messages appeared, the texts to Nadia, the excuses to his cousin, the Instagram drafts he thought I'd never find. Each one chipped away at the perfect image he'd built. The final blow? I sent the whole collection to the group chat Saad's friends shared, including some colleagues from work. Phones buzzed. Notifications pinged. Screens lit up with evidence of his betrayal. Saad's carefully crafted world collapsed like a house of cards. He stammered, tried to explain, tried to charm, but it was too late. Every smile, every excuse, every lie had been documented. And the best part? He had no control. Not with his friends. Not online. Not anywhere. I walked out of that lunch knowing he would spend weeks repairing damage to relationships he had taken for granted. Nadia would no longer be a secret. Saad's reputation would no longer be flawless. As I stepped into the sunlight, phone in pocket, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: triumph. Not cruel. Not vengeful in anger. Just right. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't yelling, threatening, or shouting, it's letting the truth do all the talking. And today, the truth had spoken louder than anyone. The next few days were surreal. Saad tried to salvage the situation, of course. Calls, texts, apologies delivered too late. I ignored them all. His friends, who had once laughed at my embarrassing surprises, now shook their heads in disbelief at his lies. Nadia quietly unfollowed him everywhere. Even his carefully polished online image began to crumble under the weight of truth. I didn't gloat. I didn't post online. I didn't make a scene. I let the evidence speak for itself. And it did. For the first time in months, I felt free. Free from the constant doubt, the secret of calls, the manipulation, the hidden smiles. Free from someone who thought he could define my worth, or diminish it, because he couldn't control me. I spent my evening quietly, reflecting on what had happened. I realized the betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was the erosion of trust, the casual dismissal of my feelings, the repeated attempts to erase me from a day that should have been ours. But in the act of exposing the truth, I reclaimed not just my dignity, but my power. People reached out to friends, colleagues, even strangers who had followed the story online after it leaked. They thanked me, shared their own experiences, told me how seeing someone take a stand gave them hope. That was unexpected. That was healing. And Saad? He was no longer untouchable. The boy who thought embarrassment was mine alone had been exposed to everyone who mattered. Every lie, every secret smile, every betrayal came back to him in full clarity. And it wasn't revenge that did it, it was justice delivered by truth, precise and undeniable. As I sat on my balcony that evening, city lights glowing softly beneath me, I realized something profound: the world doesn't reward those who hide behind secrets and manipulations. It rewards those who refuse to be silenced, who gather their strength, and who let the truth shine when the time is right. Poetic justice has a quiet way of arriving. Saad thought he could erase me from his life, from his image, from his birthday. Instead, he became a cautionary tale, a reminder that betrayal is never private when truth is patient. So I ask you, yes, you watching this, have you ever been betrayed by someone who thought you were too weak to fight back? Have you ever been silenced, dismissed, or humiliated by someone who assumed you wouldn't notice? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters, and sometimes, the smallest spark of courage can ignite the biggest change. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe, like, and stay tuned, because sometimes, the best revenge isn't chaos. It's truth, patient and unstoppable. Saad thought embarrassment was a weapon he could wield. In the end, it was the weapon that destroyed him. Have imagined.